Are you registered to vote? Check online at mi.gov/vote.
No one had, no one had said that. I mean, what's going on?
Well, to be honest, I think that Flint is just the infrastructure for retail is pretty non-existent right now. It's not set up for businesses to flourish. And it's unfortunate because we have so much talent and potential here, and people who are really young people doing work, and it's not being properly acknowledged. And I think that it's not because we don't have entities, but some of those entities I don't think are functioning in a way that is going to help support businesses be sustainable. And I think this is a huge problem because businesses are communities. We are people who are pretty much standing on the front lines and trying to hire people, create job opportunities, create experiences for people and families to come in downtown and shop and live. And when you don't have that, you start to see a decline in activity, a decline in tourism, a decline in neighborhoods flourishing. So I think that it's an infrastructure and it's a leadership issue.
It, okay, wait, you know what? Let me get some water because I was going to ask something else, but you hit something.
Mhm.
And I need to have a clear throat
Yep.
to have this
Please,
conversation.
go ahead.
But you said something about leadership. And it's
Absolutely.
a lack of leadership, and it speaks to leadership
Mhm.
because leadership should be supporting what's going on here.
Mhm.
Not only at Comma, but when we talk about Black businesses, when we talk
Absolutely.
about small businesses,
Yes.
and when you talk about what is going on in the city of Flint, and with everything Flint has been through, and people leaving. I mean, we had We've seen General Motors get smaller and smaller, so we've
Yeah.
lost population. We've seen this water crisis, we've lost population.
Yes.
We've had COVID, we've lost population.
That's
And then
true.
when you do these kinds of things,
Yes.
you continue to lose population, you continue to lose businesses.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to understand, if you and I see this,
Mhm.
I'm sure these other Black businesses that are
Oh.
around here see this.
Absolutely.
Why leadership has to see this? And I'm gonna just say, I'm talking about leadership. I'm talking about the mayor.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about. I said,
Absolutely.
we need to start calling people out
Absolutely.
and stop talking in code. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And you see it there, and you see it with leadership at the council level as well.
Absolutely.
So what do they see that we don't see?
To me, so what I will say is this: when I started to see a decline in foot traffic and activity over the last, I would probably say, year and a half, which is pretty much right at the start of the construction project, the brick restoration project. And I'm all for economic development as long as it means progress and not disruption, which is exactly what happened. There was no buy-in or any type of input from the business owners. It's kind of just like, this is the plan, this is what's going to happen. And it completely, it put all the businesses in a state of precarity. And I was very fearful of my business being open, potentially having to close its doors, because there was massive amounts of construction being done right in the middle of the streets, all throughout
You've been
downtown.
shut down many times.
I was shut down. And honestly, too, there has always been a certain level of disruption that I think businesses are kind of unfortunately used to, from, events, even though events, it's great opportunity for, again, foot traffic, but it's still very little input.
I was gonna say, has it resulted in foot traffic?
It doesn't
That's what we haven't seen.
translate into store traffic.
Right.
It doesn't translate to, money being spent in the businesses that are open every day. We pay rent here every month, regardless if we make money or we don't. So we're all kind of used to a certain level of disruption. But with that construction project, it was something different. And I felt compelled, because I am a business owner, I am a Flint native, I pay taxes. Listen, I am a constituent, and my voice matters. So I went directly to the source. I went to the city office, and I was not, I would say, welcomed very, I was not welcomed. It was very apparent that I was not welcomed. I asked first to, of course, speak to the mayor. Even if he wasn't available, I would like to make an appointment or speak. I was then instructed to speak to the next person, the chief of staff, which then that didn't happen. And I was greeted very poorly by someone else and taken into another room, asked what my purpose of business was. And I had my daughter with me because I wanted my daughter to see her mother taking care of her business. And I think it's important for you to take your kids with you when those experiences occur, so she knows how to stand up for herself. And it was funny too, because after that she was like, "Oh, Mom, you were saying a whole bunch of words I didn't even understand what you were saying," because she had left out and she went to go get the mayor, and you went into this office. I'm like, that's because you have to let people know sometimes that you're about business, and you're not somebody to play around with.
Exactly.
I'm not somebody just off the street, even though you are a constituent. It doesn't matter what your status is, what your education level is, your voice matters. And once I reached to a point to where I was meeting with the mayor, he sold me, he acted as if he understood, but yet also put a lot of responsibility on me. Like, well, help me help you. I'm like, well, hold on. I'm not on payroll. You got a whole department, economic development department. You have people in positions to support small business staff. Why aren't they doing their jobs? I called out a few people too. Tyler Bailey. Who are supposed to be a person who is supposed to be visible in the community for businesses.
That's right.
But here you are still, it's been a year. I'm still waiting on that email response. And it's not happening. I called them directly. So, when it goes back to leadership, it's just, it's very unfortunate because I want to see Flint doing well.
Right.
I want my business to do well. I am a business that is centered around culture. I am a Black bookstore owner. I am the only one in Flint and Genesee County. I can't afford to close my doors. Because
We can't afford to have you close your doors.
So you think that, there would be some level of, I don't know, like self-awareness, some type of urgency from the leadership thinking, this type of project is definitely going to disrupt businesses. Maybe we could think of some type of financial relief. And that did not happen. Instead, what ended up happening is, I guess, Metro Development had a loan. A loan and a grant are two different things. You got to pay it back.
I was going to say, one, you have to pay back.
And I'm like, first of all, how are we going to pay back something where we're not even making enough money to even pay our bills, our everyday expenses? Unfortunately, but guess what? That was the only thing that was available, and I had to take advantage of it. And I remember after that interaction with him, nothing happened. Followed up, sent emails, 2 or 3, no responses. So you know what? I went to the media.
I was gonna say, I remember. You took this and used it.
I had to. I reached out to, actually a few journalist people reached out to me because I made a whole post on Facebook calling out people, and an article was published, and some of the responses from the city kind of mentioned like, well, we did do financial relief. Egypt took a loan out, or she had this loan. First of all, how do y'all know what I took, what I did? Because that's my private information.
It's supposed to be.
So I had to hit up Metro. I said, first of all, how are y'all over here communicating about my business? First, and secondly, it's a loan. I had to qualify. I have to pay it back, and it has nothing to do with the city. So again, it's just like these weird bully tactics with leadership. Ooh. And when you try to stand up for yourself,
it sounds like the Republicans.
It doesn't it?
Sounds like Trump.
Doesn't it? It's the same bullying tactics.
It's the same bullying.
All because I'm speaking up on behalf of myself and my businesses and my fellow business owners in the community, and now I'm being mistreated. They had barricades for months.
I was gonna say,
sitting on Saginaw Street. I called them like, hey, who about to come get these barrels?
Right.
They came and picked them up. They were there for no reason. There was no reason. And that's the type of mediocrity. And Flint deserves better.
Flint deserves better.
We deserve dignity, and we deserve respect.
And right now, we're not getting it. We're not getting it. And I think about when you come in here and you were talking about the experience, because when you come in bookstore, it's comic bookstore and social hub. And so you provide an experience as well.
That's true.
And I think that's why people gravitate here. And that's what makes it so different here. And to see these kinds of things happen. And really, we can look at this area. When you look at what's in the alley here and the Black businesses, they're different, they're unique, and they provide different kinds of experiences. And for these things to happen, I think is absolutely awful.
Yes.
I think it's absolutely awful.
Absolutely.
And I mean, let's talk about Kama. I mean, because this is like, I don't know, it seems like it'd be like a dream. Like a dream come true.
It is. So it'll be 4 years next month that I've been open. And I always say the bookstore was started by the community because I raised money through a crowdfunding platform. And it was people in the community who believed in my mission and the vision that I had, that invested their money and their time to start the business. So that's why too, I feel like, and I was just talking the other day about, man, like I'm fearful about the future of Kama, given the leadership that we have, because it just seems like nobody cares about the businesses. But I still have to come up with new ideas and new ways to make sure that my doors are open, because I am a culture worker. I protect I cultivate and preserve Black history and other underrepresented groups. It's so much, honestly, like I love what I do, but to be honest with you, it's so much more than myself. I started doing this work because of the honestly the power of representation. I had this incredible Black woman who seen something in me that I didn't see in myself, and she poured into me knowledge. And that first pathway was through books. And I started to learn more and more about myself. I started to build my character, my purpose. And I believe that was something that I wanted to share through my community. And I was an organizer too. So I was working as a community organizer. And I believe that I think books are a great tool to organize around and bring communities together. And I wanted to create, like you say, an all-encompassing experience so that people can learn about themselves and each other.
So, when I was a kid, there was a bookstore downtown. It was called Read More. And I would love to go. When my mother would go to the bookstore, I'd always go with her. My mother was a first grade teacher. She taught reading. And so I loved going to the bookstore. I always have since I was a child. And I don't see people, do you see people picking up books like they used to? I mean, what has happened that it's like we're not reading anymore?
We're not.
What are we doing?
And it shows because, okay, so
we could talk about the literacy rate.
That's exactly what I'm going to talk about. So as a bookstore owner, I also visit different schools and I read with children. And I will tell you right now, and this isn't just, of course, the data shows that Flint has a literacy problems.
Right.
Our kids are not even graduating with barely a third grade reading level.
And we know what that means because what do they build prisons based on? Third grade reading levels.
And so as I'm going into these schools and I'm hearing students who aren't even capable of reading what I would consider like sight words,
right,
and yet they're passing, it's a problem. We're not encouraging. Children have to be encouraged to read. Some kids might be lucky enough to gravitate naturally to a book, but most kids don't. I was not that kid.
Right.
In fact, I always tell people, you may assume that because I'm a bookseller that I love reading. I've always had this love of reading. I did not. I had a tough upbringing. Went back and forth between my mother, who did the best that she could, and my grandparents. And I had to survive.
Right.
I was expelled from high school, and I was a high school dropout because of that. And I got my GED when I was 20. And I'm very honest and transparent about my experience because I know how easy it is to fall through the cracks of the education system. I know how easy it is to go through that prison to pipeline. And for kids who were like me, who were labeled in school as being problematic when really I just had learning problems. I had learning challenges, and it was being translated into something that was almost criminal.
I was going to say, yeah, because that was a misdiagnosis. So we're going to give you this bad label.
It was absolutely instead. And also I was a kid who had a household that suffered with substance abuse and violence. And all of these factors contributed to why I was not performing well in school, but nobody thought of me. And it's holistically, like as a student, as a person. And so I fell through the cracks. And girls often do. Boys, I would say,
because we're quieter.
We're quiet.
We're not doing some of those things. At least we weren't.
Exactly.
And so it was easier for us to fall through those cracks.
It was really easy for me. I had to advocate for my own education. I had to find alternative education programs, which back then there's really none, and I was being mistreated there. So I got to really see how the education system preys on children, how they don't advocate for them. And when I'm going into schools, I'm very hyper aware of how children and students are being treated by teachers. And I think they do the best that they can. But passing students and they can't read, to me is just, It's terrible.
That's
We're setting them
terrible.
up for failure.
That's terrible. And that's why I think, I mean, that would be a tragedy for this place to not be
And
here.
I love doing that. So I oftentimes have a lot of kids come and visit the bookstore.
Good.
And sometimes it's the first time they've ever been to a bookstore
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
you know, and I get to have conversations with them, get them excited about reading, and also showing them someone, because I think people have, again, like this outward perception of what a bookseller looks
Right.
like. You know, like you must look hair back in a
Right.
bun,
Like
you
a
know,
librarian,
glasses.
they have a
you know,
perception of what
exactly.
librarians look like.
Exactly. And that's
So,
why I think it's representation. It's so
listen,
important.
it matters every place you go. I'm gonna give you, this is a crazy example, but it's the example I'm gonna give you. And it was funny because we were traveling. It was myself and my two daughters. When we were going to Cape Town,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
were trying to get some different seats. And so we go up to the counter, and the first person we got to was a white female.
Mm.
And so, you know, we're talking with her, and she said, well, that needed to be taken care of 24 hours in advance, blah, blah, blah. There's a black lady sitting next to her. She said, well, what's going on? And so when I told her, she looked it up. She said, we can change your seats. And I said, and that's why representation matters, even at the Delta counter. Because had she not been there,
That's true.
this woman wasn't going to do anything
That's
to help
true.
us. And there were seats available for
Yes.
us to switch. I mean, something that simple that she wouldn't take the time to do.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so it matters.
It definitely
important.
does. And I've seen so many kids who just eyes light up when they come in and they see art, or they
Right.
look at different books, and the books look like their characters, look like them, you know. I have to keep going. Like, even though I see all the BS that's outside, or I'm having these issues with leadership, to me, it's just, it's white noise.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to know and understand, okay, there's something bigger at play here, and I have to be creative. And that's what we do here. Like, the businesses here, we're creative. We learn how to function outside of a system because we know the system doesn't support us.
And that's got to be a bad feeling.
Yes.
That's got to be a terrible, terrible feeling.
I mean, that's my daughter. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. But and I really don't understand, but I do get it, because I know I've told people, I said, you can get me out of this seat, but it opens up another door.
Absolutely.
I'm going to come through the back door, the front door, the window, the roof.
That's what I told my daughter. Actually,
Yeah.
we were talking yesterday, and I said, if a door closes, I'm coming in through a window.
Right.
I'm coming in through a crack.
That's right.
You know, you have to think of alternative ways, because, I mean, as Black people, we've always had to make room, and we've always had to create our own paths.
Right.
And for me, I'm always doing that. And I think as Black women, I always said we are the original alchemists.
That's right.
Okay. We spin things into gold.
Mhm.
Okay. We get rocks. Okay. We're turning them into gold coins somehow. And that's how I think about Kama.
And that's how a lot of people think about Kama. I mean, really, it is. It's such a nice place to come to. I do want people to come. I want people to come. I mean, we keep talking. That's right. Come on. Come on. In fact, I'm going to show them a book I want them to order through you.
Yes.
Because we're going to be having something
Yes.
later on next month in
Yes.
September.
Yes.
With a Black author.
Yes.
And her name is Michelle Stimson. I've been talking about this book, Sisters with a Side of Greens. And so I want you all to get that through Kama. This book is so good. It's so engaging, and she will be here September 28th.
Yes.
So you all have to stay tuned to hear about that, but it's going to be wonderful. But do they call?
Yes, you can call here at 810-768-3128, or you can just come up here at 132 West 2nd Street.
Yes, you can just come up here, because you know what? Here's the problem when you come. Because really, when I come, I'm like, okay, I'm coming for this, but I want to get that too. I see this over here. Okay, I want to get that. But you have so much here. And you're right, you do expose people to art. I remember a guy came to my home one time, and we have a lot of Black art in there. And he said, you make me want some Black art, because I've never seen it displayed this way. He said, and he said, I really like it.
And it's important, I tell people, so much is happening right now politically and socially to erase Black history. And I'm saying Black history specifically.
Right.
They do not want people to gain access to the truth. They want to take critical race theory out of the schools. They want to have these book bans, which are hurting Black writers, Black characters in general. They want to get rid of all of our contributions. So to me, we have to create alternatives like bookstores or other cultural spaces, because they're not going to teach that to your children. They're not trying to teach it in the colleges anymore.
Right.
They're trying to get rid of those CRT programs there. So I think, us Black people in general have gotten too comfortable thinking that we're protected by law, we're protected by legislation. But I mean, not too long ago,
right,
we had Jim Crow. We had segregation laws. So you should never feel safe behind laws, because laws are what kept Black people behind. So I think it's important that we support our businesses. We're out here investing in the community. I want people to know I'm not just here and selling. I'm providing a cultural experience for people. And when I go home, when I leave here, everybody who knows me will tell you I shop Black and I shop small.
Yeah.
I reinvest back in the community in some way. I got Nia over here. She's working, young Black college student. All of my employees, whoever works here, are young Black students, because I care so much about Black people. So just know, when you patron my business, you are giving right back into the community.
Back. And that's what we've gotten away from, giving to ourselves.
Yes.
And that's what we need to focus on.
People will buy their books on Amazon because it's cheaper. I get it, it is whatever, but still, you should be leveraging your dollar in different ways, not just to save. And I get it, because inflation. I could be getting these shoes for cheaper, the shoes that I got on from another place, but I got them, guess what? From a Black-owned sneaker shop. We got a sneaker shop right down the street too, Bauhaus. You can get really prime streetwear and shoes.
I just got something from there last week. I like.
You got good food here,
line. Right? Spectacular
Spuds. We got Mama Soul, who has her pop-up vegan food on Tuesdays. There's no reason for Black people to not support their own people here in Flint.
And we need to be about our own business, because I've been thinking about the ones that have closed.
Yes.
That the Dawn Donuts.
Yeah.
It's Black owned. That has closed. What is the name of it? Robin's Nest has closed. Beverly's, who used to do the Sunday dinners, is out of business. I'm not quite sure what is going on. The Cookie Jar had been closed for a while now. They did something last week during.
I passed it a minute
So
ago.
I was hoping that it wasn't just for that weekend, because I know it's been hard to get with them. So a lot of if we don't support us,
who will?
Right? Who will? Who will? And so it's just really important that we do that. As I do have to hold up my purse. Yes, because it's 1:11. I love this bag.
And you also got Kamala on here.
And you know what? And that's what I was going to say when you were talking, because they keep saying we're not going back. And that's what you were just talking about. Some of these things that were just recently taken out of place, it looks like they're going back in place, because they are stripping us.
Oh my goodness. So I was a Striver grant recipient, which is when I had I have this really great relationship with MasterCard. I had the commercial and things of that nature. Right. And the grant that I received was through the Striver Initiative, which is also distributed through the Fearless Fund. And I don't know how many of you guys have been paying attention with the Supreme Court, but they just ruled that it is discriminatory for grants to be directed to Black businesses, any race or gender specific, really race specific grants are deemed discriminatory. And it's a philanthropic organization, the Fearless Fund, which is owned and operated by a Black woman. And I was a recipient of that grant a few years ago. So we're starting to see this trend, right, of anti-Blackness.
Yes.
That's really what it is, in our policy, in our legislation, and even socially. So I think we're in a very scary and fearful time. And if you're one of those people who are trying to ride on the Trump train, you might as well just put yourself back in shackles.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what the direction we're headed back into.
We're not going back.
We're not going back. Listen.
I'm thinking about what they were saying. We are not going back.
And I had someone from the Harris team here not too long ago. We were having a conversation about reproductive rights and just all of the things that's currently at stake.
That's right.
To me too, I'm always the default place. Like CAMA is always the place that people go to have these constructive conversations and discussions. And I'm always even open to dialogue with people with different opinions, because to me, you need to have a safe place to educate people, to bring people together and to bridge that gap. When you don't have a place like that, where else do you go?
Right. You don't.
And
then you don't have the conversation because you don't have a safe place to go. But they don't want us to have the conversation and have a safe place to go. So let's barricade the streets. I mean, let's shut them down.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what, those are the things that happen, is we keep getting shut down, or they keep trying.
Oh my
God.
They keep trying. And to me, like, before I became a business owner, I was working in politics, and I left that world, I thought, only to go back into it in a new way, because owning your business is very political. And I never understood exactly how political until, of course, I became a business owner, because so much of what you do is regulated by the government. Whether it's big government through taxes, state taxes, or COVID release funds, or as we know, through local elections, through city council, through your commissioners. Those are the people that are going to affect your businesses in your neighborhoods the most. And I had to really step up in different ways. I remember when COVID happened, that's when I started my business. And all of that COVID relief money was not going to Black-owned businesses. So then the Community Foundation was a conduit for a task force called the Racial Inequities Task Force, where I was actually co-chair of the government subcommittee at that time. And I was having conversations with these entities that were the fiduciaries for these grants. And I'm like, why you guys got all these stipulations on these Black-owned on the Black-owned grants, but you didn't have all of these expectations from the regular ones that white people were getting.
Right.
And I think people even locally get comfortable because they think we got Black leadership, right? And we are a majority Black community.
Just Black on the outside. That's it.
But we protect it, and we're not. I'm telling y'all, we're not, and you should never get comfortable, and you need to advocate for your community.
And I mean, if you want some things to happen, we better speak up, and we better speak out. And that's why I said we're not even going to talk in code. We need to just call people out and let you know what's going on, because we've done that for so long. We've been politically correct for so long. It's gotten us in a terrible position.
Absolutely. And I'm one of those people, listen, they know who I am.
But what I've noticed, Egypt, there are a lot of people that are scared to speak up.
Oh, absolutely. They're all, and I think it comes from a place of fear, because, they don't want to lose their livelihood.
Well, when you have vindictive people running the city, and it's the mayor, but it's also some other people that want to keep power and control, because that's what it's all about, is power and control. And if I can keep you down, I can be up higher. Oh, and we know there's enough to go around.
And it's terrible because so I'm very fortunate. I have some wonderful landlords. Thank you, Terry and Gary. Where I'm not part of the whole uptown investment development. Because
lucky you.
I'm
And
very
it is,
fortunate.
it's a blessing.
I'm very, and
Yeah.
the thing is, when you have developers, every community has developers, right?
Mhm.
That's just pretty much how things are. They're the ones responsible for, the buildings, the businesses, their tenants that go inside the buildings. But when you have a developer who wants to not only own the buildings, every building, but then
Well, you
also
know how
wants to
monopoly
manage.
goes. Come on.
And that's what it is. It's
You
a
buy the
monopoly.
houses, then you buy the hotel. Oops.
No, seriously. And
That's
the thing
right.
is, but then they want to control what goes on inside
Exactly.
of it too. That's when you have a problem, because just because you're a good developer doesn't mean you'll be a good business owner.
Right.
And honestly, I'm very frustrated because as a business owner, a lot of how I thrive is through what's going on
Mhm.
around my business. So if other businesses are being priced out of their establishments and they're moving somewhere else and that place becomes desolate, that's going to affect me. If you are constantly reinventing a business that's inevitably going to fail,
Right.
because it has a million times
Mhm.
over and over again, it's going to affect my business too. We need new people with new, cool, interesting ideas to bring back life to the downtown community. We don't need the same thing over and over again, run by the same man who has nothing interesting to contribute anymore. It's at some point, I feel like you should have a certain level of self-awareness and say, you know what? Every business that I have has failed. Maybe it's time that I just
Maybe I'm doing
step
something
aside.
right.
And you know what?
Someone said it's part of Project 2025.
Yeah. Really?
Well, they got started here early.
They definitely did.
Because they've been working it here. And that's the
Yes.
thing. I mean, you can tell that people will put plans in place. They'll put a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, and they will work that plan because I'm working it for my kids now. I'm working it for my grandkids. I'm not going to be here, but I'm going to make sure you have these kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And they will step on you. They will talk about you. They'll do all of these things to keep you down, just so they can stay in that position.
And it's just greed.
And that's what it is. It's greed.
It's greed. We have people who've been just wringing just
Mhm.
every drop that they can out of Flint for their own motive. Not because they have a sincere interest in not only making money, but also seeing Flint thrive.
Well, let me tell you. So I might as well so this is what I get accused of. Because of now, I'm minding my own business. I'm enjoying my life. But, don't let Karen Weaver do that because she's just trying to get a platform. She wants to run for something.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I wish.
I
wish you would.
But that's what, I mean, it's like they're so worried about what I'm doing. Why don't you worry about the city?
We got enough.
Why don't you worry about the people? I mean, stop worrying about what I'm doing and stop making up what I'm doing. But they want to say, well, Egypt, she's this and she's that. I mean, they come up with reasons to talk about us and get us down.
Absolutely. And, I think too, this is something that Black women have experienced time and time again. It's too familiar to me. When people start to become intimidated, it's like, ooh, you need to stay in your place.
Right.
How dare you challenge my authority? Who do you think you are? Well, I'm going to tell you who I am and who I'm not.
Tell them.
That's I'm not the one.
I'm with you.
You messing with my money. You messing with my community.
Right.
Then you're going to have to explain yourself. You're going to have to deal with me.
And that's why I said we need to start calling people out because we need to educate and inform this community. Like I said yesterday, the county clerk, Dominique, said we had a 7% voter turnout in the city of Flint. 7%. That's abysmal.
Yeah.
7%.
Wow.
I mean, where do you let 7% of the population make decisions for you?
Yes.
I mean, this is absolutely awful. So I'm concerned about that. And so instead of worrying about what I'm doing, you need to be trying to get some voter turnout. And that's what they need to do.
And I would say too, reading and literacy is tied to your civil responsibility. Having the opportunity to represent your neighborhood
Right.
is important, because when people think about politics, they just think about the election.
Right.
So politics controls every single part of your existence, from the food that you eat that's regulated by the FDA,
That's right.
to the stop signs that are on the corner or aren't on the corner that need to be right there. All of these things are politicized, and I always encourage people, look, either you're gonna do politics or politics gonna do you.
That's right.
So you need to learn how you can be active, and to me, books elevated my consciousness.
Yeah.
I was not politically aware until I started to read, and I'm like, you know what? Too many people have died for me to have the right to leverage my political power and go to the ballot box. That's all you got to do. Take a few minutes out of your day and vote. So to me, or organize your neighborhood.
Right.
Do something, but you can't just sit idly and complain.
Right.
Because that, you
And
said
not be part
5%?
7%. We had 7% voter turnout in the city of Flint.
And I blame the city.
Yeah.
Because what are you doing to get the vote out? How are you encouraging?
They're worried. They're trying to stop me from having events.
And the thing is,
that's what's happening.
It's selfishness. And it's a weird competition, because
yes,
I tried to do things with the city. I hosted different people here before.
That's right.
And those people didn't show up. Why? I always tell people, look, your problem with me ain't my problem.
Right.
I'm still a constituent. At the end of the day, I deserve respect, and you need to do your job. If you can't,
they don't like you.
They do not like me. They do not. But what did was it Mr. Lewis, as he said, you gotta make good trouble.
That's right.
Yeah.
He said good trouble. John Lewis said it. And that's what we do. And that's what they want us to stop doing. And we're not. Is there anything that we haven't talked about?
Man, we need to do a part 2.
We do need to do a part 2. But I'll tell you what, I do want to, after we stop, I'm going to have Landon, I want to walk around and look at some things. You have something?
I would just say.
Okay, well, show it. What you going to do?
So I was just looking,
That's a good one.
Oh,
yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
There are a lot of good things, and I want people to see what's in here. I really do.
And I said she got people waiting to come in and all that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, we getting. So we want to make sure we get y'all the business,
Right.
Oh.
But
well, no, really, I just want to say I want to thank you for talking and having this conversation. We are going to do a part 2. You all need to get to Comic Book Store and Social Hub. I mean, if you haven't been here, you're missing something. If you've been here, you need to come back, because she's got some other things. Every time I come in here, you have more things.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm hoping that something I'm looking at is not yours and it's for sale.
It's probably for sale.
But I mean, it is. I mean, it's so inviting, and it makes you're so comfortable when you come in. And if you all have not been here, really, you need to come here, because you have provided so much for this community. You have provided so much about our culture. You have provided so much, and you can't go away.
Thank you. And I appreciate you, because you are a big, huge supporter, not only of my businesses, but I was just talking to Grant about how I was like, damn, I did the podcast in there too. And, you have so much respect. And I would love to, have another conversation again about this, because we really appreciate you.
Thank you. Same here. It's National Black Business Month. You all go and spend our money with each other. Let's elevate each other. Somebody told me, what was it? He said, Black power is Black solidarity. And we can't have power if we don't come together.
That's right.
And a lot of people are trying to keep us divided. They're trying to keep us divided, and they're doing it on purpose, because, they've splintered us almost.
Yeah.
And so, just to keep us down, just to weaken us. And we're not going to let that happen, because we're not going back. So you all get over here. Comic Bookstore and Social Hub. Egypt, Otis is the owner. Let's support this sister. Let's support what we need, because this is for us.
That is.
And so we thank you for doing this for us. And I thank you all for tuning in. And we'll see you next time. There will be a part 2.
Thank you.
Have a good Friday, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you registered to vote? Check online at mi.gov/vote.